Hey everyone, I'm back with another problem on the InterviewBit series for the topic arrays. So the problem today is merge intervals. So you are given a set of non-overlapping intervals and a new interval. You need to insert this new interval into the set of intervals and merge if necessary. You may assume that the intervals are initially sorted according to their start times. Make sure the returned intervals are also sorted. Right, and these are the constraints here. So the length of the interval array can range up to 10 to the power 6, and the values can be from 0 to 10 to the power 9. So basically, you have an array of intervals where you have been given the start time and the end times. Okay, so start 1, end 1, then you have start 2, end 2, and so on. And you have been given this array of intervals, and you have some new interval, let's say S T and ET. So you need to insert this new interval into this interval array and merge if necessary. Right, merge if necessary, and at the end we need to give a sorted array, right? So this problem is very similar to merge overlapping intervals, where the only thing different is you are not given a new interval. Instead, you are just given this array and you need to merge all those intervals. Right. So these problems are very similar to each other. Now let's look at how to solve them. Right. So let's first take a test case. So the intervals here are 1, 3, 6, 9, and the new interval which we need to insert is 2, 5, right? So the first thing which I want to do is, even in any order, the intervals can be in any order. So let's just assume that it is 1, 3 and 6, 9 as we are given. And the question also says that you may assume that the intervals were initially sorted but they aren't merged, right? So what I can do is I can just enter my new interval into this interval for now. Let's say we have 2, 5, right? Great. So now what do we want to do? What I can do is I can sort it again. So if I sort this interval again, I'll get 1, 3, and I'll sort by the starting times, right? 2, 5, and I'll have 6, 9. Why did I sort it again? So I sorted it again in order to get a sorted intervals based on their starting time. Why do we need a sorted interval based on the starting times? Is because when you sort it according to their starting times, the merging becomes easier. We'll see why is that. Okay. So now let's figure out the approach. How do we merge it, right? So now we have got a sorted interval array which is sorted on the basis of its starting times, right? So now we need to figure out how do you merge it actually. So let's take a current uh, timestamp which is 1, 3. Okay, so this is a interval we have. The next interval we have is 2, 5. We have 2, 5. So it is visually clear that we need to merge it, but how do you write it in code or in condition? The merge condition, when to merge two intervals, that's the condition we need to figure out, right? So let's take few examples here. So the first case could be, so this is one interval. So the first case could be, either we have a new interval, so this is I1, this is I2. So there are two possibilities, right? And let's consider this as I1 and this as I2. So here you can merging is allowed here, and you cannot merge here. So how do you actually figure out when to merge and when to not merge? So when the start time of the second interval is less than the ending time of the first interval, you can actually merge the intervals, right? What did I said? The start time of the second interval if it is less than or equal to, even if it is equal to the end time of interval 1, then you can merge both intervals. This is the condition, right? And if the start time is not equal to, sorry, if it is greater than the end time of the previous interval, then you cannot merge it, right? Perfect. So we have figured out the condition at which point we can merge two intervals, right? Now let's iterate over the arrays and check. So we have 1 3, which was our starting. So we'll always maintain a start, okay, which is 1, and we'll have end. Let's call it previous start and previous end for simplicity, and previous end is 3. So now we have, so this is done. Now we are at this position. Now we have 2 5. So we need to check if 2 is less than or equal to 3. So is 2 less than or equal to 3? Yes. Then we can merge it. So we can merge these intervals, right? So how do we merge these intervals? And what would be the ending range? The ending range which will always be equal to whatever ends at the end. How will you decide that? You take the greater out of the two, or you take the maximum out of the two. So the starting range would be always the previous start, and the ending range will always be the maximum of what will you consider as the maximum? So it will always be the maximum of this and this. Okay, maximum of this and this, which is end 1 and end 2. Okay, it will always be the maximum of end 1 and end 2, right? So here in this case, we'll merge it like this. It would be 1. So 2 would lie somewhere here and 5 would lie somewhere here. So this is one proper interval. And now we can update this previous end to 5. Right, we can update this previous end to 5 since we only have a single interval. Right, now let's move forward. Now we have 6 9. So for 6 9, we see that 6 is greater than 5. 6 is greater than 5, so it would lie something like this. This is 6, this is 9. So it is clearly visible that you cannot merge this. So whenever this sort of condition occurs, what we want to do is we push this current interval to the answer, right? So let's maintain an answer as well. So in this we can put 1 5 with us, and then you can start with new interval, which was 6 and 9, right? Which was 6 and 9. Okay, now we do not have any other element with us. So at last you can insert whatever was the previous start and previous end, right? So there would be two intervals at the end, which is 1 5 and 6 9, which is 1 5 and 6 9. Understood? Let's make it even more clear with another example, right? So we'll follow the same thing over here as well. So this was the interval, and if I insert it here and I sort it, so I'll get something like, I'll have 1 2, then I'll have 3 5, okay, then I'll have 4 9, then 6 7, 8 10, and 12 16. Okay, right. Now what I can do is same, I'll maintain a previous start and a previous end. This would be 1, this would be 2. We'll start with this index 1. So now also let's maintain an answer array. Okay, so we have 1 2 and 3 5. So since they are not overlapping, what we can do is just insert 1 2 to the answer and update this guy, which now becomes 3 5. Right, Now let's move on to this index. This is 4 and 9. So these are merging because 4 is less than or equal to 5. The current start is less than or equal to the previous's end. So we can merge it. How will we merge it? So the starting point, not this, we won't put it in answer. Rather we'll update it here. Right. So this would always be the starting point, but the previous end would be equal to the maximum of current end, which is 5, and the previous end, okay, which would be 9. Okay, now let's move on to the further index. Now we have 6, 7. So you can merge this as well. How will you merge 3, 9 and 6, 7? So as we can clearly see, this is already merged. So you will always maintain the previous start, and the end would be equal to maximum of 7 comma 9, which is equals to 9 again. So we do not need to change at all, right? Now let's move on to the next, which is 8, 10. How do you merge 8, 10 with 3, 9? Again, let's take the maximum, which is 10 again. Okay, so we have 3, 10 now. Let's move on to another index. Now we have 12 and 16. So now we have something like this. We have 3, 10 and we have 12, 16. We cannot merge them. So at a point when we cannot merge two intervals, what we do is we insert the previous interval into the answer and update the previous interval as the current interval, which is 12 and 16. Right, since this is the end of the array and we do not have any more elements, at last we will have something in the previous start and previous end, which you can directly insert into this array, which is 12 and 16. So this would be the final answer for the overlapping intervals which are merged. Okay, so this was it. And the time complexity would be, O of n log n, because of sorting, right? Since we are sorting the intervals by their start times, so the time complexity is O of n log n, and the space complexity is O of n. Why O of n? Because we have maintained an answer array. Okay, so this was it for the explanation. Now let's move on to the coding part. Okay, so let's code it up real quick. So we are given an array of interval. Interval is a struct here, and the attributes are start and end times. You have also been given a constructor, right? So it's not a pair of integer, but it's a structure. So the first thing which I want to do here is I want to push back this new interval to this original intervals array. So what I can do is I can push back interval. Okay, now what I need to do is I want to sort it in their start times. So I can say intervals dot begin and intervals dot end. But one more thing which we need to do here is that since it's a structure, we have to create a custom comparator for this. So we can write, and let's say const interval I1 and const interval I2. Okay, and we want to return, or we want to sort it by their start time. So I can say I1 dot start is less than I2 dot start, right? Since I want it to be sorted in ascending order like this, right? That's it. So now the array is sorted. Now I can say the length of the array to be n, which would be intervals dot size. Now I can assign the previous start, which would be equal to intervals at index 0 dot start, and previous end is equal to intervals at index 0 dot end, right? Okay, now let's also create a vector interval of answer, right? Now I can start iterating from the index 1. We'll go till n I plus plus, and let's say current start is going to be intervals at 0 dot start, and I'll have current end would be equal to intervals, sorry, should be I, not 0. This should be I and dot end. Okay, now we have got the current start and current end. So what is the condition to overlap? If my current start is less than, if the current start is less than or equal to previous end, right, then what you need to do is you need to assign the previous end is equals to the maximum of previous end and current end, right? And what if they are not overlapping? If it is not overlapping, then we can push back the previous interval to our answer, right? So we'll use the constructor which we are given over here. So this creates a constructor and assigns it to this object, right? So we'll create it with a previous start and previous end. Okay, so we push it back to the answer, and now you can assign previous start to be current start and previous end to be current end. That's it. At the end you can push back. I'll create an interval again and I'll say previous start and previous end. That's it. And at the end we'll return in answer. Okay, let's run it real quick. So the trivial cases are passed. We'll submit it. Yeah, looks good. So this is accepted. So I hope you understood this problem and the solution. There's a very similar problem to this called merge overlapping intervals. I'll link both of the problems in the description. Please check it out and solve it. But I hope you understood this solution. I'll meet you guys in the next video. Till then, take care. Okay? Chalo, bye.